In June 2020, Vistatec, a language service provider working in over 8 different industries and offering over 8 different types of language solutions, including translation, content creation, digital marketing, and engineering and testing, delivered a webinar whose title caught my attention. Translating without the source text, a hybrid approach between localization and copywriting. The description of the webinar begins as follows. When great user experience is a goal, standard translation may fall short. The webinar, which I attended live for free, promised to address the following topics. Number 1, reimagining the localization process by removing the concept of source text has been a game changer for a London-based startup with great results for users' engagement. Number 2, why and how this approach can increase conversion in local markets. Number 3, what happens when a software big data company puts the concept into practice? And number 4, a popular UI component localization as a case study for the innovative method of translation. As I recently worked on a project with the exact same characteristics, though for a different agency client of mine and for a different end client brand, today I would like to talk about what it feels like to translate without the source text, or rather, what it feels like to take this groundbreaking approach between localization, transcreation, and copywriting, as well as the benefits it can bring to brands crossing borders. Welcome to another episode of Founded in Transcreation, the first ever podcast on transcreation as a service, where we delve into how brands cross borders with their creative communications. I am Delfina Morganti, a seasoned English into Spanish for Latin America and Argentina copywriting and transcreation specialist. And today, I will be talking about a project I happened to work on last week, a rather extraordinary localization/copywriting/transcreation/creative revision project. So, a few days ago, a new project manager is someone I have never worked with before, but within an agency client of mine, which is actually a long-standing client of mine, emailed me to tell me another project manager had referred her to me for a somewhat unusual creative task. Her email read a little bit as follows. X brand is considering originating their content in Latin American Spanish almost from scratch, as opposed to having it localized or transcreated from English into Spanish. The task for you would be to review the Spanish page and, without referring to the English page, review and make changes to make it resonate better with the local audience, taking a freer or more creative approach wherever needed. This version of the home page will be tested against the current translated one. Now, my client is one of the leading LSP or language service providers in the localization industry. I've always worked on transcreation or creative revision projects with them, but this was the first time I was requested to take even more liberties with the source. I mean, Actually, I was asked to not even take a look at the source text and undertake to rewrite the current web page for the end client, which is a renowned brand in the marketing industry. The project was entitled something like Monolingual Review with Copywriting, and I absolutely loved it. Ever since I was a little girl, let's say, in the realms of translation, I wanted to do this. Back in 2008, during my first year at Translation Studies College, I remember doing exactly this kind of thing intuitively. When our teacher asked us to translate a text, I would rewrite it in the target language. Because that's what I genuinely believed a translator did for a living. I thought translators recreated the source text in a manner that would sound not faithful to the source words structures, but to how the text ought to sound like in the target language in order for it to catch the readership's attention in the target culture. Of course, at the time, my process was seen as an absolute mistake. My classmates found it very amusing whenever I raised my hand in class to propose a translation for a given source text, as my end product, as a manner of speaking, would often read a bit different from the expected outcome of the translation process proper. My translation teacher that year herself was always curious to hear how Delfina had translated this text or other. And it may sound like fun now, but it was a bit frustrating at the time. Everybody was so obsessed with this idea of fidelity to the source that a more, subjective set of aspects of the text, like style or flow or naturalness, seemed to be completely disregarded. Little did I know then that the translation and localization industry would, at some distant point in the future, come on, it's 2020, 2021, appreciate this notion, this approach to texts of translating without the source for the benefit of, creating a more culturally appropriate, user-friendly message in certain business and marketing contexts. So how does translating without the source text feel for me? Well, it feels pretty much like opening up a box full of stuff and being empowered to take some items out, for good and rule them out, while adding others that seem more relevant. It feels like a challenging creative mission, the great power to influence what a reader, a listener, perhaps a viewer will feel like whenever they come into contact with a specific message in the language. It feels like a liberating intellectual experience for the greater good. And that greater good, being fostering brand affinity for a more culturally relevant text, truly speaking to the target audience in a manner with the register with the words, by means of the structures, the calls to action, even the ideas that will have them smile and buy, or click, or download, or feel inspired to do exactly what the brand intended from the word go with the source text. Only that the source needs to be placed in the background now in order for the customer persona to emerge as the true protagonist of the entire communication process, including the localization process. Paradoxically, for me, translating without the source text also feels like an amazing opportunity to do the source justice. Both in monolingual revision with copywriting and in transcreation projects, a big part of the job consists of recreating the effect of the source text. In my case, I only had access to the translated text in Spanish for the project in question, and the client wanted me to rewrite it with the target audience in mind without actually taking a look at the English source text. If I did well, the target audience in Spanish will experience the same or more or less the same reactions as the English audience did when reading the source. Some brands may see this as a risky, perhaps too time-consuming process, or, not worth their while. Many brands actually still prefer to use traditional translation or localization solutions in order to reach their audiences on the other side of the world. However, and fortunately, for everyone involved, from project managers to brief creators to transcreators and copywriters like myself, more and more brands are daring to think differently and choose transcreation and or monolingual revision with copywriting to have their messages voiced right and truly resonate in their foreign markets. Two key benefits of opting for this approach in business, corporate, and marketing materials are the following. Number one, an enhanced, more relatable user interface for your digital product. Because the target persona reads the translated text feeling it was authored in the target language, which increases readability and contributes to create a seamless user experience. Number two, increased chances of eliciting the expected response from the foreign target audience, which is basically the main marketing objective when using either of these language solutions, right? When customers feel that a brand is talking to them in a language they can relate to and feel addressed with a natural, friendly, yet respectful tone in their own language, brand affinity increases, brand awareness increases, and so do the odds of having people respond to your call to action. So to cut a long story short, I pretty much enjoyed working on this project. I'm actually excited about the results of this A/B test that the end client will do. They will actually compare and measure, with their own key performance indicators, how well the originally traditionally translated page will perform, as opposed to how my creatively revised and copywritten version will read. And I guess I will hear from the project manager soon. So I'm really looking forward to the results. Monolingual revision with copywriting looks pretty much like transcreation, right? Both solutions put the customer at the core of every decision, and both seem to prioritize the target text and what it will read like, rather than what it will read like as compared to the source text. For me, any project that entails either task, whether it be copywriting with revision or transcreation, is a dream project. As a creative writer, marketeer, I am a big fan of these innovative takes that are slowly but steadily gaining ground in the localization industry. They also pose a big challenge for the usual translation translator mindset, that the source is a sort of sacred, original, that must be mirrored and copied somehow. And it also leads to question some notions that we usually use as the criteria to base a criticism of other translations on, like accuracy, omission, addition. Many scorecards in the translation industry include these categories in order to test and validate translations. So these categories begin to, I don't know if kind of like disappear, but actually we can start questioning them when it comes to transcreation, when it comes to copywriting with monolingual revision, that is translating without the source text. So it is my wish that more and more global brands try these approaches when it comes to crossing borders with their brand comms. And also, I would like to see and hear more conversations and more content on this niche language cross-cultural solution that is gaining ground in our industry. I am Delfina Morganti Hernandez, and this was another episode of Founded in Transcreation. If you would like to leave a message, please visit anchor.fm/transcreationpodcast or email me at delfina@orangepowerdmh.com. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for more weird stuff in the localization industry here at Founded in Transcreation.